Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man podcast. My name's Rory Paquette, and I know you know that, but I just like to remind myself about how grateful I am to be sitting in this chair, folks. When we made the move to 5 days, boy, you folks showed up like there was no tomorrow. And when we made the move to 7 days and I pushed the envelope a little bit, I was afraid maybe we'd get a little blowback. You folks showed up even stronger. And your support for the Sunday episode has been huge. So thank you so much. We're going to continue doing that, no matter how hard it might be on me over here. But I want to make sure that we're giving you guys everything that you want. You folks are amazing. And remember, with all these DMs that came in, I do respond to every one of those myself. I promise I'm going to get to every one of you folks. Folks, as we move forward, I just want to make sure that you know how grateful I am. And that's why I start all my podcasts this way. So if you're not out there doing what you're doing, I can't sit here and do what I'm doing. So enough of that. All right. And let me get over here to paying some bills. You guys all know what time it is. Let me take a sip of my preferred beverage. Man, that's good stuff. And you guys all know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Go look them up, check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. Folks, they brew a mean cup of Joe. It's absolutely fantastic. And they do all the right things for all the right reasons. And they support veterans, which you all know is a huge thing here at the Power Man podcast, as we do too. Folks, if you're a veteran out there, thank you for your service. We love you, and we're glad that you have found a home here with us. They support them too, and that is one of the reasons why we support Freedom Hill Coffee. So Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram, look them up, and tell them Power Man sent you. All right, let's get rolling here, folks. Let me get one more sip of this so I can keep up with this guy across the table from me. All right, he's a dynamo. He's got a lot of things going on. He's got a great cause. He's got a great message. He is the host of the No Half Cakes, the recipe for real success podcast. Cannot wait to have these conversations with this man. Please welcome to the podcast, Jim Sabellico. Jim, how you doing, brother?
Doing well, man. Thank you for having me. I got my cup of coffee here as well, and we're stocked and ready to go for a wonderful conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds great, man. And I love that. I love your message. When I first, heard about you and started looking into, you and your podcast and what it is you do, the message about, what it means to be successful and to have these different ideas of success and, showing up, it resonated for me in terms of my listeners, especially because we have so many fathers and husbands on here that battle this sort of thing that you've gone through every day. So as we get into this, Jim, tell everybody, who is Jim Sabellico? What are you about? What brings you here today, brother?
Yeah. Well, A, thank you again for the opportunity to sit and have this conversation. I am excited for it, and kind of as you mentioned, no half cakes is my thing. It's what I've really dedicated my life to. And while it might not make sense yet, what no half cakes means, I'm hoping that by the end of this conversation, it's a thing that means something very personal to you, both you and our listener. But you know, it, I could probably sit here and tell you the cool, successful stuff, or you can Google it because, everyone can do that. And you can find it all like the highlight reels of everyone's life. But I'd rather talk about the failures that I've had because I think the failures that I've had is what really led me to this spot. It's what led me to be on the brink of divorce. It's what led me to be in the worst physical shape of my life. It's what led me to not really have relationship with my kids. It's led me to near bankruptcy. It's led me to like some really awful places. And every one of those places has led me to where I am now, which is the best possible thing I could have ever asked for. Um, and so we'll talk about some of the good, the bad, the ugly, and sort of all those different pieces that have led me to here. But to really give you a little bit of a teaser of who I am and kind of fill you in, I started my first business at the age of 8. I was cutting grass around the neighborhood, which I know sounds kind of silly, but I have an older brother and older sister who were high school aged at the time that I was 8-year-old kid. So summertime when they were supposed to be like, hey, stay at home and watch your younger brother so mom and dad can go to work, they were hanging out with their friends and kind of left me to my own devices. And I had the example of a dad who was gone when I woke up and would come home after I went to bed. So being that like super dedicated hard worker who provided for his family is what I saw. So rather than sit around and do nothing, I was like, hey, let me be productive. Let me go grab the lawnmower, walk around the neighborhood. And I would make between 100, $200 a week as an 8-year-old kid, like you've got no bills, no expenses, you can do whatever the heck you want. And that early feeling of financial freedom really stuck with me. And it brought me to some very interesting places. I used to like walk people back to my house during lunch break in school and install wallpapers on their Nextel phones for 20 bucks a piece. Back when that was a thing that you could do.
Yeah.
Again, all sorts of really random money making ventures that took me to a whole bunch of different places. Um, I chased money and cars and house toys, like whatever definition of success you could put up on a scoreboard, that's what I chased. And it ultimately took me until October 29th, 2019, 8:45 at night. It's my son's sixth birthday. I come home. I have no clue what I was doing until 8:45 at night that I thought was so important that I couldn't be home for my son's birthday. In retrospect, I must have thought it was important at the time, but
Yeah.
now I couldn't even wager a guess. I come home 8:45 at night, and I come in the front door, and I could just like feel the tension in my house. My wife, just exhausted from entertaining the kids all day. She was a stay-at-home mom at that point, so she had been basically on duty for 6 straight years. Um, And I was like, all right, cool. Like 8:45 at night, kids are about to go to bed. Let's at least sing happy birthday before they do. And she drops down a half-eaten birthday cake on the table. I'm standing there in front of that half-eaten birthday cake, realizing like, what am I doing? Again, I barely have a relationship with my wife. Like we were literally on the brink of divorce that I didn't realize because I was never even home to have a relationship to know that she was unhappy. I had no relationship with my kids. Like, yes, I had all the stuff, but for what? Like it wasn't worth anything. So kind of in that moment, there was a lot of different feelings, right? There was anger, there was frustration, there's resentment, there's all this feelings as I'm standing there. But I gave some meaning to that moment and said, hey, we're not doing this again. I'm taking a serious look at what I'm prioritizing in my life and what success actually means. And I'm not accepting a half cake in any area of my life. So that was sort of the moment where I defined what no half cakes meant to me. And now it's a war cry. It's something that I repeat to myself literally every day. It's the wallpaper on my phone. It's the name of my business. It's the name of my podcast. It's literally the ethos of what I do and just it's who I am at this point. But it's really about kind of sharing that experience and helping what I like to say, helping busy people be happier, right? Because all of us have these things that call to us, and whether you own a business or you're just, super busy with whatever the case may be, right? Everyone's got their own situation. Ultimately, it's about finding ways to be more present in your life and just actually enjoy it and show up for it. Because you never know how short that life is going to be. And the last thing you want is to have regret that you missed out on being there with your kids or your family, your friends, or for yourself because you were chasing emails or you were chasing a title or you're chasing whatever that thing might be for you. So that's sort of how I got here. I know that was sort of a long-winded answer to a short question, but I hope that provides some context.
Oh, your answer was perfect. And I mean, that's so powerful that you can't even remember what it was that kept you away from the birthday party that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of the things that resonated with me, obviously, is I have a similar story. And you and I have a lot in common. But in terms of your story, make it a point to so many of our listeners. We are very heavily working men, on this podcast. And I know from talking to a lot of them that this is something that they deal with. There is always the pressure to provide. Of course, you have to hit your basic needs. Once you've done that, there's always a pressure for more. And there's always a new car, or there's always a new school, or there's always more clothes, or there's always a better vacation. There's always something else to go out there and work for. And so one of the issues is, these guys have to have a half cake moment like that in order to stop and wake up. Um, with some of the work that you do now, I think maybe the first question I have for you in terms of delivering this message is how can men start to make that change, start to wake up a little bit before they end up having a half cake moment?
a great question. And how do I want to answer it? Because I do think it's important to at least open your eyes to the fact that you're living not how you want to live, right? I don't want the listener of this podcast or anyone to have to go through that level and depth of pain if they can that. But at some point you got to realize like how I'm living right now is not how I want to live the rest of my life. Nobody is going to be able to force you to change if you don't want to change, right? And there are going to be people who are going to be there to help you, who are going to be there to support you. And unless you decide, hey, I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I'm done being exhausted. I'm done being a slave to my email or whatever this thing is for you. If you don't decide and kind of make a decision at some point that today is the day I'm going to start to change, that's the most important thing. But aside from that, I would say getting around somebody who can be a picture of possibility for you. And when I say that, what I mean is seeing and kind of getting to understand and maybe even firsthand witnessing some of the intimate details of someone's life who is where you want to be, right? Who has a successful business and is present for their family, right? Because to me, that was one of the big things that helped me move past that. I didn't have that example, right? For me, again, my father, and this is no knock to him at all, but the definition that he gave to me of what it means to be a father and a husband was, hey, you're the hardest worker in the room. You're out before everyone wakes up. You come home after everyone goes to bed. That was it, right? We didn't have this soft, nurturing version of what fatherhood meant. So that's what I modeled. And again, no knock to him. He did the best he could with what he had from his dad, right? So what I'm trying to do now is to break that, generational chain. So I don't place that on my own son, right? And I'm trying to have that conversation out loud. And so the person listening to this can say, hey, I can make a difference. I can change what that looks like. I just need to get around a picture of possibility. So for me, it was, hey, let's get around someone who has a super successful business, who has the freedom to control their own schedule, and who shows up as an awesome father and an awesome husband and is present in their lives. And I think having that definition made it possible for me too, right? Because once you see somebody else do that, it's like the 4 minute mile, right? Once the first person broke that 4 minute mark, it was impossible until then. Then how many people have done it since, right?
Right.
It's that picture of possibility. Hey, once I see someone is able to do that and live a life where, hey, your bills are paid, your family's happy, right? All the traditional things that you would consider successful, right? You got those, and you're able to just hang out on a Tuesday morning and have an hour long conversation because you enjoy it, not because you're making money, not because it's a lead gen strategy, but because you genuinely enjoy what you do. That to me is success. And I think, making the decision that, hey, you want to change, getting around someone who you can see in person as a picture of what's possible, I think would be the first two steps I would take.
It sounds like you were able to find that person. Was this someone you knew? Did this become a mentor of yours? How did that work?
Um, Dumb luck, to be honest with you. I used to post on Instagram in the morning at like 3:30 in the morning. When I was driving to work, I would whip out my phone on the highway and just take a video straight out the windshield of me driving to work, like a 5 second clip of literally nobody on the highway in front of me. And I was doing it to kind of brag how much of a hard worker I am, and I'm going to work 3:30 in the morning while you're still asleep.
Right.
And I noticed on your videos, you can see like your stories, who's viewed your stories. I saw the name Steve Weatherford show up there, and I'm thinking like, man, growing up as a New Yorker, as a New York Giants fan, I know Steve Weatherford as the punter from the Giants. Haven't seen that name in I don't even know how long. I'm like, why the heck is he viewing my stories? It seems super random, super weird. I knew this dude as an amazing punter, Super Bowl winner, like super awesome dude. Why is he viewing this random story of 14 people who viewed my story? Why is he one of them? And I noticed again the next day. And I noticed again the next day. And so I wound up just shooting him a DM just to like share that, hey, I grew up as a Giants fan, blah, blah, blah. And we wound up building some level of relationship through Instagram. And November 13th of 2019, so wound up being 2 weeks after I had that experience for my son, he reached out that he was putting together a little bit of a live in-person event to get some people together who were looking to positively improve their lives. And having just gone through this experience where I was feeling like super frustrated and lost with where I was like, all right, cool, let's try something. So I ended up going down to Florida, spent the weekend together, and we had a tremendous amount in common, and still super great friends with him to this day. But it was really divine, to be honest, how that connection started.
Hmm. Okay. I love your choice of words right there. Um, Probably eight questions are in my head right now. So let me just kind of grab one and maybe we can start pulling on
Yeah.
some threads. But the you have this half cake moment on the birthday, and it obviously impacts you hard. Um, did you just decide at that point I need to do something different, and then you had to go kind of figure out what it was? Or did you have an idea of what it was when that happened? You know, I guess what kind of an epiphany was that when it hit you?
It wasn't at all, to be honest with you. When I had that moment, the first thing I had was resentment. I was more so just pissed at everybody.
Yeah,
I was frustrated at my wife, like the sort of how dare you? Like I'm out there working super hard for my family. How dare you not wait for me?
yeah,
Which was very, in retrospect, super selfish. Like I'm not even thinking about the fact that she's entertained all the kids all day, like had my son's friends over for a party. She's exhausted. Um, and you sort of think like when you're dedicating your life to working and providing for your family, it you sort of lie to yourself a little bit and say like it's the super noble thing, and how could anyone be mad at me for working so hard because I'm not out there chasing women, doing drugs, gambling, alcohol, but whatever vice you name it.
yep,
But the ultimate side effect is you're still not present for your family. So while we lie to ourselves and think like, hey, I'm doing this thing for the benefit of everybody else, and I'm sacrificing and poor me out there being a martyr for everybody else, the end result on everybody else is really still kind of the same. So in that initial moment, I had this resentment toward everybody. I was pissed at my wife. I was pissed at my clients for giving me work, like thinking now it's their fault that they're asking me for questions. They're emailing me at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm responding
right,
as if they had control over when I checked my email. Right. So it's this resentment was the initial thing, and that led for probably a week or so. Um, until I realized kind of like, hey, that's not really working. And then I felt really lost, to be honest with you. I didn't know what to do. I knew, hey, what I'm doing right now doesn't work. I knew being mad at the world didn't help. And ultimately, it was like I said, when I met together with Steve in person, I met a couple other dudes there that we had some much needed masculine crying, right? Which is a thing that I think men don't do enough is actually share emotion together, which I'm sure we could talk about at some point in the future here.
sure,
But just to be able to actually express some level of emotion and have some vulnerability and kind of take the armor off for a minute to be, uh, seen and heard, I think was a tremendous opportunity to really like get a temperature check and realize like, hey, what you're doing right now isn't working. There's a better way. Let's walk through it together.
sure. That's a huge, huge thing to bring up, and I agree with you. Men don't. Part of it is we really can't around our families. We can't, you know, to our wives and our children in many cases. Because I mean, the old axiom of, you know, they would rather see us die on our horse than fall off of it is true as far as I'm concerned. So you have to have kind of a brotherhood, you know, a men's group, a place where everybody can take the armor off and you know you're not going to get stabbed in the back to be able to have that conversation. You found this through somebody reaching out to you. Obviously, it was beneficial to you, and it started, you know, setting you on the right, a better path. Um, what were some of and you don't have to give away the secret sauce or anything, but what were some of the changes, the realizations, you know, that got you started towards changing your behavior and your belief system and moving forward?
I believe the answer there, and this is kind of what I coach people on now. I really like the first step is understanding who you are, right? The authentic version of you.
Okay.
And it's sort of stripping off the mask, the kind of definition that you put in place, the things you hide behind, whether it's, hey, you're the hardest worker in the room. Cool. Who are you really? Or you are super talented developer, designer, marketer, blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, cool. But aside from that, who are you? Like, what makes you you? What is your authentic gift? And a lot of people don't really take the time to understand that. It could be really hard for a lot of us to even guess because no one has ever like identified it for us. No one's ever said, "Hey, you're really good at X, Y, and Z." Most of the time, we hear, "Hey, you're a really good hard worker," or uh, you're an emotional rock. All right, cool. But the emotional rock often needs someone to kind of take that armor off at sometimes too and feel vulnerable around other people. And I think understanding who you are at the truest form, right? Removing the ego and pride, figuring out like what makes you you, what is your unique gifting, what are the ingredients that make you Jim Sabellico? That gives you such a tremendous starting point to go out there and then just try stuff. Because at a
Interesting.
certain point, when you truly understand who you are and you feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard, you could care less what anyone else thinks of you because you know it's not you, right? They're judging these external made up things. They're not judging who you are. A lot of times they're criticizing against their own viewpoints. And again, when you know at your core who you are, someone's opinion of anything doesn't really sink in the same way. Right? So it gives you this freedom to go out there and start really kind of experimenting where you feel the most valued, where you feel like your purpose aligns. And you sort of have this freedom to go out there and just find the things that really light you up in a way different level.
And you said the word right there. As you were talking, I was thinking it, and then you put it out there, and it's purpose. And I think that's,
Right.
where so many men are searching, in their lives right now, trying to find their purpose. Um, and when you don't have that, then you do feel kind of lost. You end up, trying to define yourself with those other roles, those other adjectives, that type of thing, like you were talking about. There are a lot of men, that I deal with on a regular basis, and you start talking about that, and they don't even know where to start. With your group and with what you went through, um, trying to find out who you are and trying to establish your purpose and trying to find your authentic self and, asking yourself these questions. Um, it begins in a group where you're safe with other men. But then what happens when you get out of that group and you have to go home and you have to kind of be working on this new you? Do you bring your wife into it at that point and say, this is what I'm doing and kind of proclaim it? Or is it more of a covert operation where it's like, I'm working on this. I'm going to try to get better. I'll tell her what I'm doing later on.
So I would definitely advocate for telling her day one, minute one. Like for you guys to be same page, same word, same letter of the book is so critically important. And there's going to be some resistance to this, especially if you've shown up as one version and you've kind of built your relationship on this one version of you. For now to be a different version, there's going to be some resistance there. But being your authentic self and being in lockstep with your partner is such a tremendous advantage. I can't even begin to explain it. But you got to do it together, right? It's not this, hey, I'm going to do this and now I resent you, blah, blah, blah. Like you can't. You got to just humble yourself. You got to be willing to go first. And you got to say, hey, I might not have shown up as the best version of me. I'm going to do better, right? And it's humbling yourself first,
Right.
not saying, yes, but I need you to do X, Y, and Z. I need this different. I need that. Like, stop. Go
Right.
first. If you're willing to show up first and say, I can be a better version of a husband, a better version of a father, a better version of a friend, go first, right? Because it will be reciprocated and it'll come back tenfold. But if you start pushing other people to be that for you first and to kind of, bow down to you and your almighty alphaness, it's not going to end well. It's just going to be a
Right.
disaster. So, I think, while you can't necessarily take your tribe home with you, you should build a tribe where you can kind of reach out to and say, hey, here's where I'm at, whether it's a Instagram DM, whether it's text message, whether it's a Zoom call. I've got a brotherhood of dudes we meet every Monday and have for the past 5 years. Find that tribe. You're going to be able to find people who are on different journeys than you and give you different perspective. And I think that's a tremendous point. But I would like to go back to purpose. Can we go back to purpose for a second?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
The reason why is because you touched on something there where I think is critically important for people to understand is there's this desire to understand what your purpose is, right? And I think like most men, we want to think logically and directly and just say, all right, cool, I want to figure out my purpose and just
Right.
go download the answer and be done with it and move on. And I think that leads to a lot of stress, frustration when it's not that easy, right? You can't just go out there and hit download on button and move on. So what I think really would help is the understanding that purpose is developed over time. And what I like to describe it as, most people think it's this lightning strike, where one day they just get this instant delivery of, hey, this is my purpose, and now I understand, and everything is easier. But what it actually is, it's these little glimmers, these little sparkles of light that you can pick up if you're willing to pay attention and listen, or you're willing to humble yourself and shut yourself up and just bear witness to what the world has to give you. And you can pick up these little sparkles and sprinkles and whatever you want to call them, these little glimmers of light. And once you start picking these things up day by day by day and you assemble them, the amount of light and power that comes from that is 10 times what a lightning strike would be. But you got to be willing to shut up and listen and look at what the world is telling you. And I think once you start to understand that difference, where you can start to pick up, hey, this is how I feel when I'm with this person. This is how I feel when I go do this activity. You start to pick up those little pieces of, all right, cool, this lights me up. Let me stash that away in my notebook. And then you start to build this purpose over time. Right. And so I would say if I had to understand what my purpose is, looking from 6 years ago to now, I went from a 5% understanding to a 95% understanding in that 5, 6 year period. That last 5% is going to take me the rest of my life. And that's the thing I think people need to understand too. You will never fully unlock your entire purpose. So don't put that expectation on yourself. You're going to get really close if you do a lot of intentional work. But there's a lot of fine tuning that comes, right? It's this, I don't know what kind of hockey stick chart you want to call it, right? But there's a point where you get a really good understanding and then you fine tune for a long time. And I think that understanding of how this purpose works and your expectation of what it's going to feel like and what your experience is going to be, right? Having a proper frame for that, I think is tremendously helpful.
Interesting. I like that. So as you were going through your personal journey and, you're working with this group that you found and you bring your wife in on it and you're like, hey, I'm going to show up better. I'm going to lead. You fall on your sword a little bit, right? You humble yourself. Um, Obviously that isn't just, okay, linear, increase of how good things go. I mean, there's ups and downs, obviously. Um, with yours, you said it was met with some resistance, right? Because you show up a little differently. Um,
Right.
what can men expect when they start making changes like this and they start saying, hey, I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to be doing these things different. Um, what's the process like? What was it like for you? Like how long did it take? What was the evolution of your change that you went through?
You can expect a lot of frustration, to be honest. So let's get that clear right up front.
Yep.
I think sort of the biggest thing is as you start to walk through this journey, you sort of develop this mindset where just because you've done the work, you expect other people to have done the work as well. And one of the most frustrating parts is where now you've done so much intentional work on yourself and you're trying super hard and you look around at your family, your friends, whatever else, and they have not yet changed. A couple things there. One is it could kind of drag you back down into some old habits. So you got to be kind of careful of that. Number two is it could give you this resentment toward other people. And, I shared this even about my own wife. she is right now in this current season going through her own no half cake moment. And so let me back up a step there because I think the context is important.
Okay.
For the first 6 years of parenthood, she was a stay-at-home mom. I remember the last day she worked. She came home 9 months pregnant. She's got a like grocery bag in each hand, and she just dropped them right there in the living room floor and said, "I don't care if I have to eat peanut butter and jelly the rest of my life. I don't want to work anymore." In retrospect, she was super pregnant and super exhausted. Should have just taken that for context. But I said to myself, "Hey, all right, cool, got you. I'm going to retire you right now on the spot. You don't have to work anymore." And then that goes into me being a terrible husband and father for 6 years. But after that point, right about 2 years ago, she joined back into the workforce and said, "All right, cool. And the kids are old enough at this point. She's going to start to really pursue who she is right called to be." And at this point right now, from the outside looking in, I can very visibly see her going through this experience where now she's almost gone too far in, right? Where now she's got to kind of dial it back a little bit to understand, like, all right, cool. I don't necessarily need to be a C-level person to have value, right? I thought, hey, because I was a stay-at-home mom for all these years, now I want to pursue something else to prove, hey, this is who I'm really capable of being, and then seeing what that does. And the interesting part here is while I'm very well capable of coaching her through that, right? I coach people literally all day long. I'm very intimately familiar with her situation. I'm intimately familiar with what a no half cake scenario looks like. I can't force her through that, right? So when we talk about the frustration, there is a lot of desire that I have to be like, hey, let me grab you by the shoulders and shake you and say, hey, I want you to avoid this next level because it's going to hurt a little bit. I want you to recognize this. And I will tell you, anytime you try and force a woman to change, it does not go well, right? I don't know if you've ever tried that before, but yeah, telling your wife she's wrong isn't recommended. So what I would say there is really like, trying to understand, hey, just because you've done the work yourself does not mean you can expect the same from other people. But what you can do is you can show up as the authentic version of you, give them the grace and space that they need to go through the process themselves. Right. So when she sees me at this point, and what I try super hard to do is to just show up as the authentic version of me, give her a little bit of a picture of possibility of what it looks like to be able to do all these things, but not, hey, I know the right way. Let me show you how. Just copy my steps. She doesn't want that. She doesn't need that. Right. That feels very belittling. Let her experience her own journey. Right. I like to say it's in a very weird way. It's like watching the movie where you know what the ending is going to be. And you're at that part of the movie right now where it's a little stressful. The main character is in a bit of distress, and the movie feels like it's sort of at this climactic point. But you know very well in the next scene, things are going to get really good. And I think that's sort of the mindset you need to take in that experience. Just watch and learn, and don't force things. Just be the best version of you. Show up as you. Give grace and space. Let people feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard from you, and things will move where they need to move. You can't force it.
Nice. Great advice. Great advice. Especially about not trying to change your wife. You probably saved a couple of lives there just now by putting that out. So I appreciate you. As you go through this, you mentioned you're doing the work, others are not doing the work. So there's that issue. What I've seen also is that there's an issue of, I'm doing the work and I'm not getting credit for this work I'm doing because everybody in the family is kind of suffering from here we go again syndrome. They're literally waiting for me to fail, because they are expecting, this next thing. Especially I've seen this with men who have like tried to get better through a program or something, and then it didn't work. And then they try and it didn't work. And now they're trying a new program, right? Maybe yours. And they are really making progress, but the people around them are skeptical because all they know is the you they've seen. And so, how do you counsel your the men that you work with on, getting through that, accepting that everybody else kind of has here we go again syndrome, and they're not going to necessarily give you credit for everything you're doing good, but you still have to keep going forward and improving and doing good.
It's a great question. And I think it ultimately comes down to what we talked about before, the authenticity part, where you don't necessarily care. It doesn't concern them, and their opinion of you doesn't necessarily concern you. It's you versus you, right? You got to come to a point where you understand, hey, they're not going to live my life. I am. And I am the only person who has to bear the consequences of my decisions. So when you get into that phase, to me, I might recommend, hey, you don't necessarily even need to tell them. Show them. You don't need to tell them, hey, I'm working with a new coach, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Show them the difference. Show them the changed version of you. Let them see a different version. You don't necessarily need their approval. Well, you don't need their approval. And you probably don't need their guidance and their coaching, because if they were the right person to coach you, they would have been doing it all along instead of criticizing you. Right. So what you do need is to be the best version of you and let them just see it. Right. Because at that point, they can recognize, hey, this dude that I thought was going to be a here we go again moment actually changed. Now maybe I can too. Right. So you can flip it on its head. And instead of using that as an opportunity to be belittled and criticized, now you can use it as your testimony to say, hey, I did this. You can too.
I like that idea, using it as your testimony. You've used a couple of terms today that kind of suggest that your faith might be involved in this. Am I reading that wrong?
No, very accurately reading it correctly.
Okay. And so how big a part of that, how big is that in your life, in your change, and in how you coach?
It's a tremendous part, if not the most important part. I believe that each person has a gift and a reason why they were placed here. A very unique design, and again, a purpose. So finding out what that purpose is and walking it out every day, and in constant pursuit of, hey, this gift you were given, right? You were woken up today with breath in your lungs. Why? Are you going to waste it? Or are you going to use it to pursue a reason why? Are you going to say, hey, you gave me the gift of breath in my lungs and hope in my heart today? The least I can do is use it to be an example. The least I can do is go out there and then show other people, hey, there's a reason why you should be grateful to be here. And I
Yes.
think being grateful yourself is a tremendous place to start. Recognizing that not everyone got that gift today is a great place to start. And just in constant pursuit of the next version, right? And there's, the saying, you may not know now, but later you will understand, is such a tremendous part that people need to really take to heart. And, I'll tell you firsthand, for a person who's failed a lot of times, businesses burnt to the ground, uh, again, literally on the brink of divorce, on the bankruptcy, like you name it, everything that I've ever failed at, version 2.0 has been miles better. And I personally have learned and developed into a much better version of me because of it, as have the things that I've had my hand in. Looking back at the businesses that I had 6 years ago, right? The life that I built that I thought, hey, this is the pinnacle of success. I've got the Midas touch. I can do literally whatever I want. I work probably 30% of the time that I used to work 6 years ago, and the businesses are doubled, if not more, since then. So, by every possible measurable metric, my life has increased. And a tremendous part of that has to do with my faith and not trying to control everything myself, right? Having an understanding that, hey, there is a guiding hand in all this. And one of the best examples I could tell is this. You ever watch the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a scene in that movie, and I was watching it with my kids, where the scorpion is in the backyard, and the people are running through the backyard, and there's a bit of fear there that the scorpion is going to attack them and they're going to die. And I'm watching this movie with my kids, and we get this part, my daughter starts to cry. So I pause the movie. She crawls over, climbs up in my lap, and she's like, "Dad, I'm worried that the scorpion's going to kill them. They're not going to be okay." And I said to her, "It's okay. I've seen this movie before. They're going to be fine." And the reason why I share that analogy is at a certain point, you got to understand sometimes you got to crawl on your spiritual daddy's lap and be like, hey, I'm nervous how this thing unfolds. And understand he's seen this movie before. He wrote the book. Like, you got to have faith in the fact that this thing's going to work out, right? But if you don't have that faith component, it's going to make everything infinitely harder, right? So I would advocate tremendously to start exploring that. And I mean, we could talk for a long time on that, but uh, yeah, it's important, is the short answer to that question.
Yeah, I love that. That's incredibly powerful. And even that little bit of testimony right there, about your kid. Um, I love that you were leading a program like that. I mean, there aren't enough men's programs out there to begin with, but men's programs that are faith-based, and that, sort of bring that power into the equation. There really are not enough of those. And so, I mean, I applaud you for not only doing what you're doing, but for doing it the way you're doing it and being unafraid to talk about that and to put yourself out there like that. I mean, that's awesome. And so congratulations just on that piece alone. Love what you're doing. So I hope you keep it up. I hope you continue to be successful with it, man. It's very, very much needed. And I appreciate you answering the question. Some folks don't
Yeah.
want to talk about that, but you were just like, nope, let's go. So that was great. Um, all right. So at some point in this whole big mix, of you working on yourself and of you going through your spiritual change, you decide you're going to help other people do it too. So what brings you to the point of saying, "Hey, I've done this. Now I want to help other men go through this."
Um, I think it's again that pursuit of purpose, that saying thank you for the gift, and recognizing that for me, the reason why I'm able to hang out with my kids all day and do what I'm able to do and live the life I'm able to live is because there was another man who was willing to do that for me, right? Who stood up as a picture of possibility and said, "Hey, I'm willing to support you through this journey. I'm willing to kind of mentor you and be that person for you." And he gave me an example of followable excellence. And for me now, I feel like it's literally the only possible thing I could do is to repay that in some way, is to be that for somebody else. And for me, it's this desire to kind of just, hey, if I was given this day, how can I possibly use it to maximize that return on investment? No, you put me here today. What can I possibly do to show up and show out for the other person who might need this message? It might be someone listening to this podcast. It might be the dude at the Taco Bell drive-through. I don't know who it's going to be, right? But I do know that I'm here and I can live my life out loud as much as possible so that other people can see, hey, it's possible for me to change too.
Nice. Nice. All right. And so you have the podcast, No Half Cakes, the recipe for real success. How does your podcast play into your movement? Yeah, educational? Is it, sales, marketing? What do you use the podcast for? How does that play into the whole thing?
To be honest, selfishly, I really enjoy talking to other people and hearing their stories. And it's almost this situation where I like to sit with another person. That person might have a similar story that they want to share their testimony. That person might be an expert in a thing that could help somebody else. But it's really the opportunity to sit and just share time with people. Much like this, I don't like structured questions. I like just sitting down and connecting with somebody, right? I don't want it to be this really formal interview because you don't get to know the people.
Right.
I'd rather sit down and just speak, right? Just hear the other person, let them kind of share their testimony. And that was the whole purpose of this. I didn't start it as literally anything other than a way that I can connect with other people and kind of share my story and a platform for them to share theirs. And it's developed a pretty solid following. And at this point, I don't necessarily have a milestone for it. I'm not looking to get to a certain amount of downloads or rate. I don't care. If I get to sit with one other person and that one other person has a slightly better day, mission accomplished. And I'm gonna keep walking that out as much as I possibly can.
Nice. It's a great way to use it. Really is. I coach podcasters, and one of the things I say to them is if you don't have some sort of passion for what you're doing, and why you're doing it, then you're probably not going to be here very long.
Yeah.
So, and I checked out your podcast, got to listen to quite a bit of it. You've been doing this for a minute, so clearly you believe in what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent, absolutely love it. All right, Wilk, I love everything that you've, or sorry, Jim, I love everything that you brought to the program today, brother, and everything that you're about. The Do you have a coaching program? Obviously, you do. Do you have something you want to talk about to the guys today? Because there's some guys out there. Anyone I'm talking to, if they're not working with me, I want them working with somebody. And to be honest, I'd love it if they were, working with you, because I love the way you're doing things. So, you want to go ahead and tell them where can they find this stuff? How can they get in touch with you? How can they look into your coaching program if they're resonating with you today?
Absolutely. Nohalfcakes.com would be the easiest place to go. So that is the kind of the official coaching slash business arm of this. Um, if you want to find out more information, you could go there. Or you can just hit me up on Instagram at Jim Sabellico. I would be more than happy to just talk. I'm definitely not the type of person who's going to hide help behind a paywall. So if you are kind of dipping your toes in this and realizing like, hey, something has to change, I'm not really super happy with where I'm at, and just at least want to explore my options and just vent, hit me up. I would love nothing more than to just be the person who can be a shoulder to lean on. If that's the first stepping stone you take, I'm happy to be it for you. So by all means, please reach out somewhere.
I love it. As we, kind of bring this together here, I want to make sure that we've covered everything. You've got quite a story, and I know that there's a lot of guys listening that are resonating with it right now, including me. So, um, but I want to make sure that there isn't anything we've missed. So, I want to kind of, just ask you: is there anything I didn't ask you? Is there anything that we talked about and maybe you want to double down on? Um, is there anything that maybe you have a nugget or a lead behind for the men that are listening today? I'm going to give you the floor for a couple minutes. Go ahead and wrap any way you would like. Parting thoughts, all yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, what I would say, and I think we've covered quite a bit in this conversation, there's obviously, we could probably talk for the next 6 weeks straight
Yeah,
and still not even scratch the surface. But what I would say is this: nothing is going to change until you decide something's got to change. And I want to leave you with this question. When you get home, you put your key in the door, you open that front door. How much of a cake are you coming home to? I want you to ask yourself that. That could be in your marriage, it could be in your fitness, it could be in your finances, it could be just even emotionally with yourself. I want you to ask that question to yourself. How much of the cake am I coming home to? And decide if it's not the whole freaking thing, something's got to change. And use that momentum. Give some meaning to the moment where you say, hey, today's the day. I'm not going to accept half of anything in my life anymore. Life is too short. Life is too fragile. Okay, you're here for a freaking purpose. And I don't know what that is, and you may never know what that is either. But walk it out, find out that purpose, and make sure you're not accepting half of anything in your life ever again.
love that. That's a great way to wrap, brother, and a great call to action for these guys. Um, love it, absolutely love it. My goodness, host of the No Half Cakes podcast, the recipe for real success, Jim Sabellico. Jim, thank you so much, man, for coming on here, sharing your story, getting very real, very vulnerable, sharing your faith, and just for really giving men some instruction and some guidance and some leadership on how to start changing their lives. It was huge, and I love that you came on today. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, that's been another episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason we bring powerful men on here like this to talk about these powerful subjects and topics is because we are united in supporting you in regaining your power to become a better protector, a better provider, a better leader tomorrow than you are today, to become a better husband, a better father, a better man tomorrow than you are today. And the reason we want that for you is because you have value. You matter. and you're worth it. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.